If you find yourself traveling through the Anauroch desert on a regular basis, or are interested in the plunder of arguably some of the most intense, dangerous, and stupendously wealthy ruins in the Forgotten Realms, this video is for you. Also, if you are interested in one of the most enigmatic and shadowy powers still stirring in the realms, a faction whose mastery of shadow magic and the bleak energies of the Shadowfell remains unmatched by most, then this video is also for you. You will be learning about the current state of the Anauroch, the people who live there such as the Datarig, the Bedeen, the Krinth, and the Shadovar, and a new species of flying mount, the Vesarab, native to the plane of shadows that are quickly becoming the mount of choice for the more unsavory mages of Luskan, necromancers of Thay, and Zentarum crime lords. So today, let's go deep into the desert wastes, learn a lot more about one of the most inhospitable environments on the continent, and go into the City of Shade, your last stop and chance for supplies before plundering the lost empire of magic. Settle back, grab yourself a tasty beverage. It's time to get deeply nerdy. Let me take you there. The sun hangs low over the horizon. The sky is a golden haze from the dust swept up in the day's unrelenting heat, with the glare of the west casting long shadows across endless dunes. It's stark, but beautiful. The air shimmers with the last heat rising from the sand and wind-smoothed rocks. But as night falls and Selûne rises with its glimmering tail, a bone-chilling cold seeps in, reminding me that Anauroch, the great sand sea, is no mere wasteland. It's a living grave for a civilization long buried. This desert, spanning nearly 1,000 miles north to south and 800 east to west, divides Faerûn like a scar. To most, it's unthinkable to even try to cross it. The legends of its danger backed up by so many tales of lost caravans and failed expeditions. Legend says it once was the fertile heartlands of the mighty Ethereal Empire, but it's hard to believe it now. It was scorched into desolation by the alien Faerûn's life-draining magic nearly 2,000 years ago, when those aberrant horrors began siphoning the land's vitality, feeding on it as they spread their evil. Meanwhile, at the Empire's zenith of might, the great Archwizard Karsus tried to steal the power of the goddess of magic, and Netheral's floating cities fell from the sky. The scattered survivors forming fractured kingdoms in the southeast, only for Faerûn-leached desert sands and conflicts to swallow them whole over the following centuries, until 300 years after the start of the Dale calendar, they were all gone. What was Ethereal was then commonly known as Anauroch, as the desert spread unchecked. But then, another 300 years later, the relentless tide of the dune sea stopped. A mysterious power, some called the Shans, put a stop to it. As deep below the sands they crafted a magical prison for the Faerûn, the Shan Wall, trapping them all inside to roil and spit their curses at the world above they were now denied. Then, after many centuries, some 500 years ago, the desert started to creep southward again, no doubt from some lingering malevolence in the lightless world below. For over a millennium, the nomadic Bedeen have claimed this harsh domain, their camel caravans tracing hidden paths between sacred oases. But 200 years ago, a new group started to invade the desert. Known as the Zentarum, they forged what is known as the Black Road trade route from Tesschendale's ruins to Lorca. It's an important trade route between the Western lands and the Moonsea, battling the cunning Bedeen raiders while carving artificial oases like Veritil and Helunga. Then, not so long after the Year of Wild Magic, the Shadovar returned. You see, Not all the flying enclaves of Netheril were destroyed in the Great Cataclysm. The Netherese were masters of 1,000 magics, those of life and light, energy and creation, but also of destruction, death, and darkness. Their flying enclave, Thultanthar, lost to the plane of shadow since Netheril's collapse, materialized above the Direwood before settling over the Shoal of Thirst. These shadow-infused Netherese heirs seemed to ignore the Bedine at first. They were infiltrating for information. In channeling Shadowfell energies, they melted the great high ice's edges, summoning rains and carving rivers in the parched lands. So slowly they birthed a great body of brackish water called the Shadow Sea. This is why there is a great flat plain of salt in the desert now. In the time of your fathers, Anauroch was once again starting to bloom with wildflowers and grass, the first growth of a forest in thousands of years. Under the rule of the Shadovar, Netheril began to return. They rebuilt cities like Lundeth and Razalith, subjugating or exterminating rivals and declaring the Faerun extinct on Toril. But sadly, that glory faded fast. The Shadowbane War pitted them against the forces of the Zentarum for control of the very lucrative Black Road. Bedine rebellions erupted. Those proud people, so long living free, could not stand the whips of their dark new masters and rallied with alliances from the nation of Cormyr in the Dale Lands to the south and the many heroes of the Harper faction. The great wizard Alminster with his allies finally put an end to the return of Netheril. His mighty magic crashed Thultanthar into Myth Dranor, slaying the Shadovar Lord Talamont Tanthal and shattering the Empire once and for all. The desert reverted harshly and swiftly over the next 30 years. So much hope and life was parched and died again. The elves weep for it still. Now, I hear that some fools battled each other in a place called the Memory Spire and awakened some long-dormant Faerun hives, and there are signs that their life-leeching may have returned. So the rumour goes. The rise of Netheril was stopped, yes, but the Shadovar were not exterminated. The Shadovar remain, though diminished, in secretive holdouts rather than a rising empire. One such that I know of is called Shade, and that is where we are headed. Keep your eyes open. The night offers no protection here. Far from it. It's best to approach the city of Shade at night, both because the blinding white salt flats stretch like a cracked mirror for a couple of miles, and it's like walking on blisteringly hot sand sandwiched between two suns, and also because the residents of Shade simply don't trust anyone who travels by day. You will first be met by a patrol who know your exact location, because those in the city or their shadow servants saw you coming miles away. Very little goes on near the city that they are not well aware of, and you'll need some damned impressive means of concealment to avoid their attention. If not a sky patrol, you'll be met by the Corinth, a race few in the realm seem to know anything about, so let me inform you. Corinth are generally unpleasant people. They are tall and broad-shouldered, like the rig-head barbarian standing at 6 feet for women and 7 feet for men. Their skin a dusky grey like weathered granite, straight jet-black hair falling unkempt over brows while the women braid theirs, but not for cosmetic purposes. They do it to keep it out of their eyes and to denote their rank. They have eyes like twin voids of polished obsidian that swallow light whole. No whites, no pupils, just endless black that pins you in place, judging your worth in a heartbeat. Armoured in scarred breastplates and clutching a wicked ranseur polearm longer than you are tall, the patrol leader will be the one to speak, stepping forward out of the shadows, a gravelly rumble of a voice that cuts the night like a blade. State your business, soft skin. Quick. These people are the unbreakable hammer of the Shadowfell Legion. Bred in the midnight chambers of Loth's Thultanthar, during its long exile in the plane of shadow, born of cold necessities. The princes of shade, seeking loyal soldiers immune to the gloom's despair, forced unions between captured Netherese arcanists or lowly slaves and the essence of bound shadow demons. Oddly, the Krynth have a stark cultural animosity for the firstborn, those with direct demon parentage. They call them spawn and relegate them to brutal and humiliating servitude, while those who are the descendants, who are born of two crossbreeds, call themselves the true-born Krynth. But both inherit the supernatural resilience of their corrupted demon blood. They are capable of enduring the desert's bite or Shadowfell's chill without flinching. Once they filled the ranks of Thultanthar's armies, thousands strong, fearless shock troops who shrugged off necrotic blasts, melted into twilight for ambushes, and charged Faerun hives without pause. Gruff and humorless, they tolerate no nonsense. Small talk earns a glare, weakness a snarl, betrayal the swift thrust of a short sword, or losing a hand or your head to their very sharp poleaxes. Their culture is one of iron duty and simmering rage. Single-minded labourers by day, savage revelers by night who love cruel tastes in entertainment. They are similar in many ways to hobgoblins, I've found, that simmering viciousness and violence kept in check by iron discipline they enforce on each other from birth. They speak clipped Netherese or accented common. Actually, their accent is quite similar to the people living south of the Sword Coast. They have names like Korvath, Vex'ul, or half-demon snarls like Drask. The destruction of Thultanthar changed everything. Most perished in the rubble of Myth Dranor over scattered wars. Survivors cling to shade. I'd say there are fewer than 800 left across all of Toril. They guard the gates, patrol the dunes, and whip the backs of slave labourers hauling stone. It's common for them to interbreed with Shadar Kai, diluting the line further. The patrol who intercepted us will grunt approval at a bribe of water and silver. They'll tell us to pass, but threaten to hunt us for sport if we stray or cause trouble. The city of Shade is secluded deep in the southern Anauroch desert, perched on the slopes of the scimitar spires overlooking the vast, deadly shoal of thirst. Black stone towers that rise sharp and angular, their high spires piercing the sky. Avenues wind in shadowed labyrinths where sunlight never fully penetrates, even at noon. Courtyards remain cloaked in twilight, as if the Shadowfell itself has seeped through the cracks in reality. Light sources here are placed oddly, calculated to form shadows in specific ways, because so many of this place know the art of shadow magic, including stepping from one shadow and emerging from a distant one. Any unwise curiosity-driven wandering can get you killed in the City of Shade. There's no welcoming trade centre. It's your last perilous chance for water, shelter, or local knowledge before plunging deep into the ruins of lost Ethereal. Always keep this phrase in mind. Creatures of the bright, stay in the light. Do not stray into the darkness and shadows here, because the city is home to true horrors of the plane of shadow in the forbidden chambers of those sharp-edged, twisted towers. The lords of this place chose the terrain well. The jagged mountain peaks of the scimitars complement the architecture. When you can see it, as I said, most passage through the city is closed in and perpetually gloomy, with dim light being the norm. And if the sky should above you darken suddenly, not with clouds, but accompanied by the soft, leathery whisper of wings, you had best drop flat and find cover, because the Shadovar do not rely solely on Krynth boots to guard their borders. They have Vesarabs. These are no ordinary mounts. Imagine a creature the length of a small horse, but tubular, almost serpentine, with midnight blue hide so dark it drinks the starlight. No eyes, no face worth calling one, just a wide lamprey maw ringed with needle teeth, flanked by two enormous fan-like ears that flare and twitch as they catch echoes in the dark. Massive bat wings, thin as parchment but more than strong enough to lift the beast's bulk, and a rider with full provisions. Fold along its sides when grounded, but once airborne they stretch wide and silent, carrying the Vesrab high over the dunes. 4 spindly legs end in hooked talons for perching on spire ledges or ripping into prey. But the Vesrab is born for the sky. They are ungainly on their feet, not agile, and they don't enjoy walking with a rider on their back. In the wilds of the Plane of Shadow, they hunt in herds, led by the largest females, docile until they scent blood or threat, and then they become relentless. A single Vesrab can spew a black, corrosive fog from that maw, a cone of choking darkness that blinds, burns, and sickens anything caught inside. They strike from above, silent as death, talons first, then those teeth. But the Shadovar broke them long ago, in the centuries after Thultanthar drifted through eternal gloom. Handlers, usually elite arcanists or trusted Krynth riders, bond with calves through ritual and risk. Once the bond takes, the Vesrab is fanatically loyal to its rider. Cross that bond, though, and you will not live to regret it. In the days of the Flying City, Vesrab patrols were a terror to any caravan daring the Black Road. Riders swooped from the night sky, silent wings blotting Salune's light, breath clouds dropping scouts and guards before the riders even landed. The calves of the Vesrab sold for 12,000 gold in Thultanthar markets, more than most men see in a lifetime, and only the wealthy or the powerful could afford them. The Shadowvar used them to scout ruins, intercept Zhentarim wagons, guard the Enclave's flanks. They were symbols of dominion as much as weapons. The breeding pens lost when Thultanthar fell were a serious blow to the breeding efforts, but the City of Shade has recovered from the stock that remained, and now sells the things to those that have what they need in exchange. I've heard travellers speak of Vesrab seen far from Shade, silent shapes gliding over Luskan's rooftops at midnight, or circling Thayan necromancer towers under the moonless skies. Zhentarim agents have been spotted bartering for calves at hidden oases, paying in black sapphires and promises. Whether these are stolen, traded, or bred in secret by defectors, no one knows for certain, but the price remains ruinous. The training deadly, and the beasts themselves never truly tame. A Vesrab may carry you across the dunes faster than any camel, silent as a ghost, but if it ever decides you are prey, well, the desert has swallowed louder screams. So when the wind dies and you hear the faint rhythmic flap overhead, do not look up. Drop low, cover your face, and pray that the rider has no quarrel with you, because the Shadovar still remember how to hunt from the sky, and the Vesrabs have never forgotten how to kill. I'll get to the Shadovar in a moment. First, a few more details about the city. The Badin and Datarig, who linger in the City of Shade, are a far cry from their free-roaming kin in the wider sword. Most eke out lives as slaves, indentured servants, outcasts or cutthroats, pressed into the gloom by Shadovar whips and Krynth overseers. The Badin, those proud desert nomads with sun-browned skin, dark eyes and flowing robes that once danced with the dunes, now huddle in the lower warrens, chained to labour gangs hauling black stone for endless repairs or serving as herders for the Shadowvar's sparse camel flocks and hidden oases. Their culture, once defined by tribal Olna, Sikh-led raids and sacred oases where blood feuds paused for water, has twisted under the yoke. Honor remains, but it's whispered in secret gatherings around dim fires where they share salted kofi, bitter and black as their resentment, brewed from rare Anorian beans smuggled from Datarig raids and contacts. Meals are meagre, honeyed camel's milk curds for the favoured servants, or stringy lizard stew scavenged from shoals' edges, flavoured with desert herbs that remind them of lost freedoms. No more grand feasts under the stars. Food is rationed, shared only among trusted kin to avoid Krynth enforcers. They live in cramped tent slums within the city's walls, guarded by Shadovar wards that choke any spark of rebellion. Magic, their ancient fear, is forbidden on pain of death, though some whisper of hidden shamans invoking Atar and defiance. Under the Shadovar, they are tools, expendable labour for excavations, or fodder in skirmishes against Faerun remnants. The Krynth, those grey-skinned brutes, lord over them with casual cruelty, lashes for slowness, executions for upraising talk. Yet some Badeen endure as integrated servants, their nomadic spirit broken but not extinguished, dreaming of the day they can slip the chains and rally with free tribes beyond the spires. The Datareg fare little better, those diminutive veiled folk from the eastern fringes, barely 4 feet tall with puggish noses and wrinkled brows hidden under turbans and burnouses, outcasts and opportunists. They slink in Shade's underbelly as indentured scouts or petty thieves. Their shrewd trading ways turn to survival scams. Culture clings in cave-like hovels carved into the spire's base, veiled faces to ward off suspicion, back-it-up plans layered like traps on mountain paths. Food is scavenged or bartered, sour goat milk cheeses, resin-spiced flatbreads, or poisoned javelins dipped in secret sleep toxins, fatal to orcs, but slumber for humans. Under Shadovar rule, they are ignored as insignificant until needed for border espionage or smuggling metal goods past Krynth patrols. I know that sounds a bit illogical at first, but while the Shadovar as a whole don't need to smuggle metals past their own Krynth patrols, the Krynth are part of the system, but individuals, minor factions or black market operations inside Shade sometimes do, to evade the court's tight control, internal taxations or paranoia about disloyalty. It's small scale, high risk, and usually handled by Badeen and Datareg intermediaries who already live in the margins. Large shipments or open defiance would earn swift Krynth retribution, public executions, shadow-binding torture, or Vesarab hunts. In Shade, even the shadows have eyes, and metal is power. Moving them quietly is often the only way to keep breathing, and Datareg are very skilled at it. The Datareg toil in hidden abodes, crafting unguents from desert sap. Cutthroats hire out as guides, switching loyalties for the highest bidder. Life is a constant hustle, selfish, cruel, with a twisted humour that mocks their overseers. The Shadovar yoke weighs light on them compared to Badeen, but Datareg slip through cracks, avoid direct servitude, but Krynth enforcers crush any who stray too far. Yet these downtrodden souls offer hidden boons to outsiders and adventurers bold enough to seek them. Badeen servants whisper maps to lost Netherese crypts or warnings of Faerun hives, manticore territory, harpy nests, sites where one might find a sphinx, rumours of jackal wares, the lairs of dragons and such. For a price in silver or a promise of aid against their masters, perhaps a flask of fresh water or a hidden blade. They sell desert herbs that dull pain or oasis packets of dried dates and nuts, sustaining long delves. Datareg cutthroats peddle black market supplies, their unique poison vials, metal tools smuggled from Tel Badir, or inside info on Shadovar patrols and weak wards. If you outbid the Zentarum, of course, who also seek out this information with spies who frequently end up as parched corpse rotting in swinging bone cages outside in the harsh sun. Indentured Datareg might guide you through mountain caves or escape routes, or sell resin unguents that mask scents from Vesarabs. But trust sparingly, these folk live under tyranny. A loose word buys favour from Krynth, and betrayal is survival. Approach in whispers, pay in shadows, and vanish quickly. In Shade, even allies have knives in the dark. Also, never trust information about their own people out in the Anauroch. It's never reliable and often wrong. There are many reasons they have ended up in Shade. None lend themselves to a free flow of information, with their relatives outside the city. In the dim streets of Shade, food is scarce, grim, and expensive, sold from shadowed alcoves or hooded vendors after dusk. Portions are small, prices are high, and everything carries the chill of the dark. The Shadovar eat little, outsiders pay dearly for anything edible. Street food vendors are quick, furtive exchanges, thin shadowed flatbreads baked in gloomfire ovens, ashy and bitter but staying fresh for weeks, dried blood dates, leathery and salt-preserved, sweet tarts enough to cut through us, and sand stew skewers of dark roasted lizard or camel chunks threaded on bitter grass, stringy but filling, spongy grey fungus cakes fried in camel lard, nutty with a metallic edge, sour camel milk curds pressed into bricks and dusted with sand salt, portioned and protein-rich. Each costs a few silver, handed through the slits in walls without a word. For the road, preserved rations are costlier and rarer. Black shade hardtack from desert tubers, iron tasting and eternal, never spoiling. Shadow's dried jerky of hare or gazelle, tough and salty with a faint necrotic bite. Rare Oasis packets of dried fruits and nuts, as I mentioned, and honey slipped in by Bedine contacts. Thick blood wine cordial from fermented dates, camel blood, spiked with Netherese spices, dulling hunger but sharpening the senses in the gloom. A small flask of 3 to 5 doses runs 15 to 25 gold. It's pretty brutal on the pocket. You'll need to go and delve some ruins just to recoup your losses. No open markets exist. You approach a shadowed arch, murmur your need, pay up front in silver or gems, and take what is passed through without haggling. Offer too little and you walk away empty. Offer too much and they remember your face. Most travellers stock up on Bedine oases or Zentarum caravans first. In Shade, a meal keeps you alive, but it never warms the soul. Eat quickly, pay quietly, and leave before the shadows decide you've lingered too long. A few additional notes from those that have risked Shade's hospitality. The flatbreads sometimes carry faint traces of shadow essence, dulling pain or fear for an hour or two, and useful in the buried realms, but leaving a lingering cold in your bones. The blood wine is said to help resist the desert's night chill, though overuse brings nightmares of the Shadowfell. Fungus cakes are the safest bet for long delves, but they don't rot and provide steady energy, though the metallic aftertaste never quite fades. Vendors rarely speak, and if you pay extra in Netherese silver or a minor gem, some will slip in a small vial of shade dew, condensed gloom from the spires that quenches thirst without weight, but it leaves your tongue numb for hours. And that's the extent of it. No feasts, no warmth, no mercy. In the city of Shade, even sustenance reminds you the light is a visitor, the dark is home here. Speaking of darkness, the Lords of Darkness in particular, let's talk about the Shadovar. The Shadovar are the true shadow-infused descendants of the ancient Netherese, the ones who ruled from the flying city of Thulthanthar and survived its destruction. They thought among themselves in the years that followed, princes and arcanists tearing at one another over who would rebuild their empire, but gradually they scattered, some into the wastes of Anauroch, others deeper into the Shadowfell lairs where gloom welcomed them like kin. Now in this diminished age, a few hundred loyalists, mostly lower-ranking arcanists and their retainers, have regrouped and established the City of Shade as their last foothold. They look much like the Crinth at first glance, dusky grey skin that seems to drink in the light, jet black eyes that reflect nothing, and arrogance that hangs in the air like smoke. But where the Crinth are blunt hammers, the Shadovar are knives in the dark, reclusive, calculating, far more patient. They move through the city like ghosts in their own halls, cloaked in flowing black robes edged with silver runes. Voices low and precise, never raised unless command demands it. The culture is rigid magocracy. Arcanists hold absolute power. Common shades and servants bow low, and every soul bends knee to Shah's doctrines of darkness, loss, and the inevitable triumph of shadow over light. Rituals take place in dim temples hidden behind false walls, incantations whispered over bowls of condensed gloom, shadow essence drawn into the body to slow aging, sharpen the mind, and mend wounds that would fell lesser folk. They disdain frivolity as weakness. Laughter is rare, jests rarer still. Endurance is virtue, arcane supremacy is law, and survival the only creed left after the crash. Post-fall bitterness has tempered their old imperial arrogance into something colder, more focused. They still dream of resurgence or rising a new enclave, reclaiming the skies, restoring Netheral's glory, but the dreams are quieter now, fed by small victories. A successful raid on a Zentarum caravan, lost Netherese relic unearthed from the dunes, or a new spell woven from Shadowfell threads. They plot subtly, alliances with Thayan necromancers who crave shadow lore, quiet deals with Zentarum lords who value discreet aerial support from Vesarabs, even the occasional whispered bargain with a Harper agent desperate enough to trade secrets for a moment's truce. Yet trust is thin. Every pact carries a risk of betrayal, and the court of the three, the Vandra and Mariloom Vantul, with their grandmother's ruthless blood, backed by her loyal arcanist Gwelt, keep their inner circle small and paranoid. Daily life in Shade revolves around three things: survival, study, and secrecy. Arcanists spend long hours in sealed chambers experimenting with shadow magic, crafting new ways to step between shadows, bind gloom to steel, or draw essence from the plane itself. Servants, Badine, Datarag, and the few remaining trueborn Crinth, haul water from hidden springs, tend to the sparse fungus gardens and lightless caverns, repair black stone walls cracked by desert winds, patrol Crinth on foot, shades on Vesrap back, circle the spires at night, ensuring no free Badine scout or Harper spy gets too close. Meals are sparse and functional, shared in silence around low braziers, fungus cakes, dried blood dates, the occasional skewer of roasted lizard. No feasts, no songs. Even recreation is disciplined. Chess-like games played with obsidian pieces on boards carved from fallen spire stone, or ritual duels in shadowed courtyards where losing means exile, or worse. Yet beneath this cold discipline lies a deep, unspoken melancholy. These are the last echoes of a people who once commanded the skies, who bent the desert to their will, who believed themselves the rightful heirs to Netheral's throne. The crash took more than a city, it took their certainty. Now they endure, plot in gloom, wait for the moment the shadows align once more. If you meet one in the streets of Shade, tall, cloaked, eyes black like glass, they'll regard you with polite disdain, speak in measured tones, answer only what serves them. Offer something useful, knowledge of a buried enclave, a rare component, a promise against their enemies, and they may listen. Offer weakness, and they will forget you ever existed. That is the Shadovar as they stand today. Diminished, dangerous, and dreaming still of the day the sky darkens with their wings again. But those dreams often lead them downward, into the black maw of the earth beneath Anauroch, the buried realms, where the ruins of ancient Netheral whisper secrets that could rebuild an empire or doom the world anew. The Shadovar scout these depths obsessively, sending Crinth patrols or Vesrab-born arcanists to plunder what was lost, and you, adventurer, if you're bold enough to follow, might find riches beyond imagining, or horrors that make the desert above seem merciful. Let's speak of those ruins first. The remnants of Netheral are scattered like shattered stars across Anauroch, crashed enclaves buried under dunes, crypts sealed by sandstorms, towers toppled by Carsus's folly still humming with faded mythals. Places like Akantea under the high ice, its frozen halls guarding preserved arcanist tombs. Aquaser, near the shattered tower, where half-buried spires poke from the Badlands like broken fingers, or the lost Seventon villages on the narrow sea's ancient shores, now ghost-haunted gravel. These are the echoes of High Netheral's glory. Floating cities that plummeted when magic failed, lowlands scorched by Feywild malice, and artifacts await. Fragments of the Nether Scrolls, staves that bend reality, mythals pulsing with raw weave energy. But dangers lurk. Magic traps that twist time, undead guardians rising from Netherese nobility, aberrant echoes of experiments gone wrong. The Shadowvar claimed them as birthright, but Zentarum looters, Badine scavengers, and even Harper agents raced to unearth them first, turning digs into bloodbaths. Deeper still lies the buried realms proper. The Fairlin, to some, a vast underdark prison forged eons ago. Picture plunging through the sinkholes like the throat, or rifts such as the Fallen Giant, descending into lightless caverns where the air grows thick with fungal spores and the drip of unseen waters. This is the domain sealed by the Shan Wall around 33,000 or minus 33,800 DR, when ancient lizardfolk empires drowned Feyrim hordes and the Shans, these enigmatic, shape-shifting beings, wove barriers to trap them. For millennia it held, but breaches came. In 1371 DR, near Evereska, unleashing chaos that the Shadowvar later crushed. Post 1488 DR, fools clashing at the memory spire cracked it again, so I'm told, stirring hives that now leech life from the surface once more. Who knows why and when? Geography twists here, caverns riddled with Aramikos fungal mazes that drive minds mad. Tomb tappers, vault guardian, ancient vats of creation, underdark layers connecting to the surface via spell-plagued scars like the Deepmoor and the Frozen Sea. Inhabitants rule in terror, Feyrim overlords with enslaving Asabi, those lizard folk, warring beholders and illithids. Portals flicker to darker planes, Yugoloths bargaining from the grey wastes, hags in volcanic pockets, fiendish incursions from the abyssal nine hells via blood war rifts, Glabrizu demons or hellhounds slipping through. And the Feyrim themselves? Gods forbid you meet one. These thornbacks, slug-shaped aberrations, conical bodies ending out of toothy maw, forearms wielding wands, our barbed tail whipping poison. They're strangely like the Vesrab in many ways. Are malevolent geniuses, natural spellcasters who drain life and magic alike. They toppled Netheril by siphoning its essence, turning fertile lands to sand. Highly ambitious, they work only for personal gain and delight in pain. In 5e lore, recent updates like Netheril's Fall add variants, Elder Feyrim with amplified psionics, larval forms burrowing into hosts, awakenings means surface raids, life-leeching spells withering crops, floating horrors ambushing caravans. The Shadowvar hunt them relentlessly, of course, but a single Feyrim can unravel a party with psychic blasts, innate spells like Dominate Monster, life-drained auras that sap hit points, and spell slots. This is prime adventuring ground. Descend for Nether Scrolls, battle Feyrim hives, ally with Shan remnants against the aberrations, but beware, the buried realm devours light, magic, and hope. Emerge with treasures, or join the ruins forever. For more information, I can recommend two new sources. The first is the adventure Netheril's Fall, available in D&D Beyond. It has a lot of information that will be very useful in delving into the ruins beneath the sands, and the new variants of the Feyrim are a lot of scary goodness. But speaking of sand, Sands of Doom, written by Mr. Rex, also known as Fermin Caballero, is absolutely awesome for this kind of a campaign setting, as well as being an outstanding adventure campaign all on its own. I highly recommend you pick up a copy from his web store, linked down below. There are many good reasons Mr. Rex is the best dungeon tuber on the planet Earth. His book is just one of those reasons. It's a masterwork. My name is AJ Pickett, your Sage of Candlekeep, the Dungeon Master's muse, scholar of not-so-ancient tomes, cultist of Gygax, and scribbler of old-school fantasy art. Thank you so much for staying a while to listen, my friend, and as always, I'll be back with more for you very soon.